there. This is Alia Bogdanoff.
And Whitney Ensom.
And this is 30, Wordy, and Friendship. Welcome back for episode 3.
Woo-hoo.
The one where we talk about...
social anxiety.
I almost blanked and I
helped you.
Like my other half. Before we jump in here today, what we want to do is just kind of do a little bit of a recap. Because, guys, we're living this every day.
Sure.
So we're talking about these subjects, but they affect us too. And people in our lives give us feedback. And it's been this really cool journey for us. So, Whitney, I want to start. You mentioned that you had kind of an authentic moment this week. Do you want to start by sharing that with us?
Yeah. So I feel like since I was authentic about what's going on in my life, about I mentioned doing the work, being in therapy. And I had some interactions lately since our episode where I felt like that authenticity kind of carried over into my conversations, where this person I was talking to was really supportive and kind of helped me get to a place of better perspective, and I was open to it. And I think because I was in that authentic, wholehearted living, coming from that, I was able to receive that and be willing to not have it together and just be willing to grow from that. So I feel like I'm more open. Like I've felt, and I've had people, I think you have too, who've been authentic as well. And I'm like, hey, way to be authentic. And they're like, well, you've inspired me. I'm like, awesome. Because that's kind of all we can do is just show up and try to live authentically. So it's been cool since our last episode.
That's awesome.
What about you?
Well, I'm in a bad mood today,
yeah.
and we're gonna be authentic about that. I woke up cranky, and I didn't get good sleep. My children keep me up a lot. They've been having sleep issues, and every mom knows when your kids have sleep issues, you have sleep issues. So today was like that day where it all kind of came to a head. My eyes been twitching for 2 days, and I'm in my glasses, and I'm,
You're very adorable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My eyes hurt, and my 1-year-old is, we've got her in the next area. It's a bunch of Cheerios in front of her. So she's going to last as long as the Cheerio supply lasts. So we're going to see how long that goes. If you can hear nursery rhymes in the background, that's her show. Playing nursery rhymes, little baby bum saving me from this moment. So I don't know. I just thought, the realness of what we're dealing with doesn't stop just because we don't feel that great. So that's my authentic moment.
We're both showing up not our best version of ourselves with it together. We both have had a few interesting days, but I think it's important to be real. So we're going to do our best with what we have.
Yes, and I did want to say great feedback on episode 2. I had some really fun ladies tell me yesterday at my mom's group that they've been really enjoying the podcast and that they think it's funny, which I love. You know how much I love humor. So I was like, yay! And I think I posted it when I posted the announcement that it's a great thing to listen to while you do the dishes. And that's what my friend told me. She's like, I do it to the dishes and it's my favorite. And I'm like, that makes me so happy that that's when you find time. And so just been getting some really good feedback from people. And then people come up to me like, I haven't listened yet, but I'm going to listen soon. And I'm like, so cool. Whenever you have time, that's great. But we've done really well. And we're excited to keep going. Yeah. And trying our best to be as consistent as possible because we want to keep this train ride rocking. I don't know what that means.
You had a little
back to you
head nodding thing going on. You look super sassy. Well, so social anxiety we're going to talk about today, and I think both of us just want to start saying that it's a real thing for people. It's debilitating. We're not saying that we have the answers to a real diagnosis of social anxiety disorder, but both of us over the years have dealt with some of those symptoms, those characteristics of it, and we found some things that have helped. Sometimes we're in it still in the moment, and we just kind of want to be real, but we just want to definitely say right now with people listening who may struggle with it and it is really life-limiting, that that's real, and we don't want to discount people's experiences because it can be really difficult living day-to-day with it. So, that's kind of where we're coming from. We want to be real about a topic that is real to us, and we'll see how it goes. Yes.
So, Whitney, What does social anxiety look like for you?
Well, I think as a whole, I mean, things have changed recently. I think we'll talk about that. But overall, there's been times where I've walked in a room and felt like people are judging me. Like they have these thoughts, and I've created this story of what they might be thinking.
Right.
Sometimes when the attention is on me, which happened this weekend, and I wanted to crawl under the couch.
Right.
I still have that. It's like everybody's looking at me, and I start to blush, and then knowing that I'm about to blush makes me blush, and then people go, "Why are you blushing?" And I'm like, "Well, because I'm embarrassed and kind of just feeling awkward. Like I walk into a room and don't really feel at ease, depending on if I know anyone, or the people that I know in the room. Do they know this is what I have dealt with without them, knowing the whole thing? But people who will like sit with me and make conversation. So I think those are the biggest things that I've dealt with, where I feel like it's scary sometimes to just to be around people. And in the past, I've avoided times with people, feeling like if I showed up, I would want to run away. And sometimes I did. So I would avoid those things. Some of that has changed. I'm grateful for that. But I think that's still a potential for me of feeling overwhelmed in social situations. But, we're going to talk later about how we've coped. But it's real. It's definitely real. And it's definitely something that has been in my past.
Yeah.
How about for you?
You know what's funny? I used to say that I didn't ever get socially anxious. And I used to think like, I've got this charisma. I just walk in a room and I know what I'm going to say and do, and I feel really in control. But more recently, I would say I've understood the anxiety that I struggle with and how that actually affects me socially. And I think that I had this perspective that I had it all under control, and I really don't. What happens to me is when I get anxious socially, I feel very withdrawn, but it's like I'm watching myself act. It's like I'm watching myself talk to people and watch it, but I'm not really present. I'm not really 100% there. And I'm, like I've mentioned before, it becomes a little bit more of like a performance for me, and I'm trying to make sure I am doing the right thing versus really interacting with people. And sometimes it's triggered by things.
What?
So I had a funny story yesterday. So I walked into my mom's Bible study group, and this is my second year going. Last year, I had a table and sat in the same spot. So I walk in yesterday, and my really good friend, I won't name her name even though she'd probably be fine with it, was sitting in my chair. And I had a rough morning. I had been, anxious and running around and trying to get things done. And I was bringing quiche. I was cooking. Anyways, I guess I didn't even realize how much I just was like, just get all this done and get to that chair. And once you're in that chair, you can settle. You can drink your coffee. Everything's going to be fine. I walk in and she's in my chair. And then the next chair is a different lady so everybody basically like was in the wrong chair. And I decided that was just really not okay. So the first thing I say when I walk up is I'm like, "Hi, good morning." I'm like, "Why are you in my chair?" And my friend's like, totally caught off guard. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that when I sit in my chair, I know we have a speaker today. I can't see." I'm like, "Well, then I can't see when the speaker." And I like went off. I wasn't loud or anything, but I was very insistent and stubborn, and she kept trying to backpedal with apologies, and I was like just hounding her like,
"You took my chair.
You took my chair. We're not letting this go. You're in my chair. You don't like that chair, but now I have to deal with the difficulty." And she's like, "Well, you're late." And I'm like, "Well, that doesn't matter. This is a chair, and last year I was in the same chair all year." And
I expect my chair.
And another lady was like, "Wow, somebody's throwing a little bit of a tantrum." And I was like, "You darn tootin'. I am throwing a tantrum. That's my chair."
Yeah.
Couldn't get off of it. So I had to go to the restroom, so I kind of just went to the restroom, and while I was in there thinking, I realized it wasn't about the chair. It was that something that I consider very consistent. I enjoy consistency, and when I showed up and something wasn't as I anticipated, I got anxiety because it wasn't predictable. It threw me off. It was something I would have never thought would have changed, and it threw me off, something very small. And so my social reaction was to then focus on the change and that it wasn't about how I was feeling, it was about the change. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went back, and they actually made room for me, which is like the worst thing you can do for me. Don't bend to me. I need the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But they made room for me. They were super gracious, and I apologized and just said, sorry, you guys, I felt like a total jerk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's important in those moments isn't that you just say, hey guys, sorry, but that you really reflect and say, what happened in that moment? Why did I get so worked up? I consider myself a pretty easygoing, happy, delightful person.
Very delightful.
But there are these moments where when people change things on me, that I react, and I'm still trying to understand why. Why in that moment? I'm even telling myself in my brain, like, Alia, let it go. Just let it go. You're being mean to people that you love. Let it go. And I have a really hard time doing that. So the best part, I would say, when that happens is, how do you recover from it?
Yeah.
How do you recover in relationships and kind of help people walk through what you're dealing with? How do you, I even explained my anxiety to her. And then how do you recover in yourself? How do you come to terms within yourself what you experienced? I think too many people just brush it off and just continue to live their life without really tearing it apart. And I love to tell it apart because I think it helps me understand myself and thus helps me understand others. So
I think more of us are triggered than we realize.
Yeah.
I had an experience this weekend where I was with a bunch of people that I'd never met, and the final morning they were all laughing and they all had a seat to sit in, and I got up and I came back and I was like, nope. And I went back into the bedroom I was staying in for like, it felt like forever. I think it was for like 30 seconds. But I sat there and I was like, I don't know.
Too out of place.
But
there's too many differences.
Yeah. I totally relate to you about the inconsistencies, the changes, and that's been hard to deal with. But I think you're right in that it takes that self-reflection to go, this is why I was uncomfortable. This is why I reacted the way I did.
Right.
And yes, it's good for people to understand where we're coming from, but for us to understand so we can know that I don't have to let that happen each time I'm triggered. Like, what do I do with the trigger? How do I kind of cope with that? But gosh, we need to just be aware. And it's hard because we just, I think more people struggle than we realize, but it seems like it's sometimes just overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that people, what I think a lot of people do is get quiet, and they don't question the quiet, and that's okay. It's all right to be quiet, to be a little bit more of an observer, someone who doesn't, react or talk. That's fine. I think the part to question is, am I changing my normal personality? Am I normally more, easygoing and easy to have a conversation when I get in these certain types of situations? Do I act out either way? Either acting out, like I mentioned, where I actually amp up and I get more, I just call it my little life of the party, walk in and like, hey everybody, how's it going? Oh my gosh. I'm like bouncing from person to person, about a social butterfly, and then walk away exhausted because I just basically like was on Broadway with everybody and then tried to come down. Or some people walk in and they shut down and they cannot figure out why they get so stuck in their shell. So I think those are the types of behaviors that are like a first indicator that something is going on.
Agreed.
So, Whitney, how has social anxiety affected your life?
I think it's affected my confidence. Well, I'll just say this. I think I've noticed a change as I've built confidence, that it's kind of combated that fear. But I think in the past, it definitely affected what I did, who I hung out with. It definitely, you talked about the withdrawn, and it's so funny, side note, when I met you, I was really jealous because you were super just excited, and I saw that part of you having no clue that was what you
that was like a coping mechanism for me.
And so it's you were life of the party, and I think for me, I've been the withdrawn part, that's been there for me. So it's affected my life in that it limited my relationships and not really understanding it and feeling really shameful about it. Like, why can't I just get it together?
Yeah.
So,
why do other people look like they have it so easy?
Right. They seem so happy. And I don't know about you, the more I talk to people, I realize, first of all, none of us have it together. But I look for people that are withdrawn. I end up, if I'm in a group, I'm like, hey, they look like they're alone. Not that I am always having it together, but I think it's hard to feel like you're being judged,
Mm-hmm.
not only for the fact that you have social anxiety, but then how that affects how you interact with people. So I think it definitely kept me kind of stuck and feeling like, what do I have to bring to the table?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Yeah. What about you?
I think that social anxiety, like I said, I really didn't recognize it as a huge thing in my life for a long time. I think as I've gotten a little older, had kids, I've calmed down a lot. Maybe. I don't know. I think I have. I think I was pretty high energy when I was young. I was really just trying to figure out my place with people. And that's the only thing I really knew how to do was like come in real high energy and kind of feel in charge of the situation. But as I've gotten a little more comfortable with myself, I would say it comes at me a little slower than it used to. And I can kind of recognize it. Like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little anxious. A big thing for me has been I sometimes will have like a mood shift and think it's these people, maybe someone said something, and realize that sometimes mood shifts just kind of naturally happen in you. Maybe someone said something and it started to affect you, and realizing that like I don't have to label, my husband calls it like my blacklist, like label people and situations as bad because I had a mood shift or something happened that triggered me. Sometimes I'll have an interaction with a new person and I'll come home and be like, I didn't like them. I didn't like this. They said this. They did this. My husband's like, why don't you go back and have a nap, maybe have a meal, get in a better mood, go back and have another interaction with that person. And I find that, my tone will change. Sometimes it's me. And I've learned to, give people second chances.
Like you shift your perspective.
Yes. Yeah. Because I can be judgy. Don't mean to, but I get real judgy.
It happens.
It's a protective thing for me. Judging who's good, who's bad.
I think that's super real. And like we keep saying, the awareness. I think it's hard because then we're like, oh, I have to look at myself.
Yeah.
And I think it can be other people. I think we talked about before this episode.
That was definitely the other person.
The energy, because you and I are both in the intuitive group that we kind of pick up on people's energy, moods and such. So, which isn't social anxiety, but I think personality-wise. So it's kind of hard sometimes to know, is this mine or is this?
So true.
Is this what I'm?
Is this person upset at me?
Yeah.
Or are they upset at life?
And then if I feel like they're upset at me, which is completely my perception, then I want to hide as well. So I
want to hide?
Oh, totally.
I want to solve it. I'm like, what's going on? What happened?
I want to run. I want to hide under a rock.
Really?
Oh, yes.
I want to attack them and tear them to pieces and find out what's going on.
Why are you the way
that you are? Why are you acting this way? And then when it comes out, I'm like, oh, it's not me? Great. Now, aren't you happy? Yeah. Free therapy. I just tore apart your life. That's so funny. And we have opposite reactions to other people's issues.
Yes. I take it on. You want to...
I want to fix it.
Yeah.
I want to fix it right away.
So interesting.
So, Whitney, what do you wish that people knew about you and your social anxiety?
Well, I think when I'm in it, I wish people have this way of just, like, I noticed this weekend I'm around all these people I didn't know who are wonderful, but I realized I was saying some really dumb things. Like, I would try to be a part of the conversation instead of just being quiet. I'm just thinking, well, that was dumb. Well, that was dumb. And I realized it came from nervousness. I wish people knew that I really, really, really like them. I really do. Even when I'm in another room on a bed of a place I've never been that I slept in the last 2 nights, composing myself because it's like my room, my safe space. Like, I don't know if I can go back out there. That has nothing to do with other people.
Yeah.
So I wish that. And I wish they knew how hard it was to show up sometimes.
Yeah.
That it takes a lot of energy. And I think part of that is just that I'm more on the introverted side of the spectrum. So a combination of that, it just makes it hard sometimes to be there. And when I'm there, to be present, because it's easy to show up, but to walk every minute and be there and be real is exhausting. But I love them and I want to show up. So I guess I wish people I wish people didn't know, because then I could just fake it. Right? There's me trying to have it all together again. But if they did know that I really am trying, and I'm not as weird as I really am. But then again, I am super weird. People that know me, I'm
your weirdness,
so
though. It's my favorite part about you.
It's just such a weird
It's so
person.
funny. I don't know. It's hilarious, and
it's kind of relatable though.
It's very
most of us are
relatable.
People have told me that you're weird, and it's just the right
And
kind of
like
weird.
it.
And
Yeah.
so I guess those are the big things.
It's quirky weird.
It's
eclectic
hard to
weird.
Show up. Yeah, it's a lot of pieces.
That's what I
of
used to
different
say
things.
about my house decor when I didn't know how to decorate my house. I'd be like, I'm very eclectic / I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's all strange, but I like it all.
Well,
and that's what made it eclectic to me. It was things I enjoyed that didn't match.
I have to say that your house is beautiful.
Oh,
and
now.
that,
Well, that's because my sister-in-law
I
came
wanna
and
affirm you.
decorated it for me. I didn't do this. She put all this stuff on the walls. So it's her.
Eclectic is not a bad thing. Here I am trying to summarize all that and put a bow on it. All right. So, what do you wish people knew, Alia?
I wish people knew that I'm really, really trying hard to connect with them. I really do. Like, every time I meet, especially when I meet new people, I'm really trying to connect and get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always sure how that comes off. You know me, I'd be a little intense in the beginning. I just am. I can't help it. And I'm not, I know what it is. Sometimes I can tend to talk a lot, and it's not because I'm trying to talk over them or I'm not trying to be the center of attention. Mm-hmm. That's not it for me. Sure. I don't do well with silence. Or if they're not responding. Like, I do really well with, I'm Greek, and we do a lot of hand gestures and facial expressions. And so I do a lot of communication other than the words. Mm-hmm. And when people aren't like that, when they're not animated, I get really confused about what they're trying to tell me. When they're giving me nothing and just words, I feel like I'm like trying to decode like a secret message. I'm like, what are you really trying to say? You're saying things, but you hate me, don't you? Like,
it's not matching.
Yeah, it's really hard for me when they don't match. Because in my culture, you do more. Everything's more, and more is good, and it's a way that you communicate the energy and the tone of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So, I wish people knew that I maybe come off a little bit selfish, self-focused maybe, but I'm not trying to be self-focused. I'm really trying to get to know them, but I don't always know how to understand them when they're very different from me. So for me, what I'll do often is, my husband does this too, is match the other person. Mm-hmm. So they're really quieter. I'll try to come down to their level and match them down to the level energy-wise, not deserve anything.
Just come down to their level.
Come down to their little puny. Just kidding. No, I'll try to come down to their energy level because that's Nova in the background trying to get my attention. I'll be there in a minute! And I'll try to be like them so that I can kind of see them through their own eyes, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to go help my child.
Okay.
Why don't you give us a little bit about how you've coped with your social anxiety and what has helped you?
Sure. So I feel like in the last, I think about year and a half, I've noticed a connection with when I started going to this this gym that I'm a part of. It's a group type of gym. I love it. And I've noticed that as my confidence grew, and knowing that I had a place to go to become healthier physically, emotionally, all that the more that I showed up there, the more I showed up other places. So then I joined a hiking group in October. People I'd never met. I met them through Meetup, and it was terrifying and amazing. And I feel like me showing up, feeling like I was worthy to show up, because I think a lot of my social anxiety has been related to maybe self-esteem or not feeling as confident in what I'm bringing. That as I've done more things to kind of stretch myself and bring my feeling of worthiness to the next activity or group or people I meet, the more I show up. So as I feel more confident in myself, I know that that I am worthy of being there, and that people, I don't know, the more I show up and I'm feeling worthy, the more people want to be around me, and then I feel worthier. That's a thing. Not that my worthiness is based on people, but as I've shown up, and I keep saying showing up because it's hard to show up. Sometimes I just don't want to show up anywhere because I want to stay in my own little cocoon. But the more I show up and feel worthy, the more I feel like people want to be around me. And now I just have too many people to spend time with. I feel horrible. I'm sorry to people who are listening in my life. Not in a bad way, but like,
you are really busy. I have like a time slot once a week with you. And that's all I get. I'm happy with it. Don't worry.
You get once a week. That's more than some people. Just kidding. No, but I think what's helped is as I go to those activities, I'm not worried so much about, I mean, there's times I have that, but especially if I don't know them yet, like this group I was with this weekend, I think part of me is still worried, what are they thinking of me?
Yeah.
But as I showed up with my love for hiking, my love for serving, who I know that I am and who I've cultivated in the last year and a half especially, I brought that person with me.
Yeah.
That was another person inside me. But I brought that part of myself that that feels worthy, and then as I do that, the maybe the feeling of, are they going to judge me? All of those fears, the embarrassment, just wasn't as obvious. So, and after people keep adding me on Facebook, and people say, I enjoyed being around you, and so then that connection gets made.
Yeah.
Each time I show up in my feelings of insecurity, feeling worthy, but then realizing after I do have something to bring. Yeah. And that helps. So I feel like, and then that keeps it going. So I think it's hard. It was really hard to get out of that shell, that place last year. But once I did, it just kind of kept rolling after that. And now I still feel overwhelmed sometimes socially. Sometimes I want to go into like a deprivation chamber after doing things with people. Especially large groups, that still is overwhelming sometimes. But I definitely don't overthink it as much. And like, what do they think? And it's not so much of a worry. It's like, gosh, I'm so proud of myself for showing up when I know how hard it is for me to do so. Because I don't think anybody there knew that that's what was going on in my head. Not. I think I play it off well, and not in a fake it way, but like I come with that feeling of worthiness where people may not know what's going on maybe in the back of my mind, but I think most people now have really not a clue how much I struggled with it in the past. And so I think that's given me confidence. So that's my part about what's coped and helped.
I think most people don't know, because like I'm starting to realize that more people struggle with insecurity and wondering what others think of them more than we would like to let everybody know. I think what's different about this conversation is we're literally just like, oh, this is what happens to me on the inside. Where I don't think a lot of people want to give that narrative in their head a voice, because it's kind of a scary road to realize that you're concerned with others. One of the best advice somebody ever gave me was that people think about themselves 90% of the time. Yes. And 10% of the time is spread over everyone else in their life. And it's so true. Like, I think about myself 90% of the time.
So they're not
really thinking about you that much. And when you kind of shift your perspective to realize that people are really thinking, they're concerned about them. And so if you can kind of flip your switch a little bit and try to be present with them and what they're thinking, it goes a little bit better than it would.
What about you? Like, I mean, what has shifted for you? Because I know maybe there's been some changes.
Yes. I think before I really didn't know who I was, and I didn't really know what I was sharing with other people. Like I said, I was really just trying to be liked, but I don't think I was really trying to let people get to know me. And what's been my difference in the last few years has been really like, I do want people to get to know me, and I want people to like me for me, and I had to switch. Even, I remember when I was working, I had to do this huge switch where I was like, you know what, I really need to just authentically be myself, and I need to let people decide whether or not they like me. Yeah. Based on what I show them. And if they don't like me, I need to try to like quit trying to change it. Because there are people you run into. There are people I run into who every time I'm like, they don't like me. And instead of obsessing about it and trying to get them to change their mind, just be like, them and I just don't match. There's something about our personalities that clash. There's something about me that bothers them, and just let it be. Not everyone's going to be your friend, and not everyone's going to enjoy you.
So it's not a personal thing. It's
no.
like maybe they
had a really mean, short Greek person in their life that really hurt them, and I'm just this constant reminder. No, but really, like I've had people tell me like, oh, you remind me so much of so and so, and we do that as friends when we meet people. We have bad experiences, and then when we meet someone similar, our brains go, alert, alert, that person's probably going to screw you over too. So that's just part of life. It's part of relationships. The most we can do is, look at ourselves, be responsible for our behavior, look at our actions, and then maybe not tear it apart too much, because some things also just take time. I'll notice there are some people that I need a year to like.
Yes.
Because I just didn't understand them right off the bat. I tend to be like that with really, really quiet people. I get so curious about what they're thinking. I'm like, why aren't they talking? Like, if I'm in a Bible study group of women and this one person just never shares, I get so fixated on them. I want them to share so bad. I don't know why I think like there's this outspoken person just stuck in there.
And you can bring them out.
And I can bring them out. And I try to get them engaged. And really, I just need to let it go and let people be who they are. So I think a lot of what's helped me is acceptance. Accepting things right where they are and not trying to control them so much. And just allowing, like I've said, allowing people to be who they are, not trying to fix them. I'm huge on trying to fix people. When I hear them talk about their problems, I'm already starting a file in my head on them and taking notes and assigning things to them and, I can tell them this. And really, I think the best kind of friend is the person who loves you right where you are and knows you have faults and doesn't really want them to be different, because your faults kind of make up who you are too.
And I wonder if that acceptance, maybe we have to kind of accept where we're coming from, and maybe that acceptance comes, I don't know, when we accept ourselves, we can kind of accept other people with our faults, because we're all pretty broken, and God's working on us and kind of shaping us in our current selves and who we are in the future. So we can't control other people, but as we maybe this is for me as I accept myself and those places of difficulty, then I can say, and I'm just going to walk with you as you deal with your stuff. I can't rescue you. I've done that so many times in the past, and I think that's just not fair, because that takes away their process, and that puts me in an awkward position of that I have this responsibility, that I have answers, when really I'm just trying to figure it out too. Yeah. So I think we just love people where they're at, and we love ourselves where we're at, because it's easy for me to want to be in a different place. Yeah. And I think that can be nice to know what direction I want to grow in, but as I'm patient with myself, I can be patient with other people in their own process and go, they're going to be okay. And I get to be a part of the journey. So, gosh.
Well, we want to hear more feedback from you guys. Yeah. I've gotten some great feedback in person. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have an open moment. Why don't you guys comment? People don't. I think we're talking about really intense topics.
Maybe people get nervous.
And they get nervous about commenting. And it's so funny because I'll post something and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I know so many people who have talked to me about this in my face and are so excited, or send me personal messages. And then I post something and then it's like crickets. And I think it's because the internet is a hard place to expose yourself. And I get that. So keep sending me private messages and telling me to my face how much you love it. But, I mean, I'm just waiting.
Are you doing it?
I'm so disappointed. I'm really waiting for that person to just be like, screw it. I'm just going to put how I really feel and start a conversation. I bet the first person who really opens up is going to set off a bunch of people who want to really talk about it and be vulnerable. And my hope is that we create almost like a little community of people where these topics become very normal to discuss. Because I know a lot of you love this kind of thing, and I want to open up and want to be part of the discussion. So be part of the discussion.
Because a lot of you relate. I mean, we both interact with enough of you to know that these aren't things that only we have dealt with. I have people who've told me, I like that you talked about relationships. Well, we talked about relationships in the beginning. Let's talk more about that. So I know that people are hearing this and going, I need more. I want to be armed with knowledge, but I want to be able to be real about it. So I think the more that we can relate to each other, it's easier to be open and honest.
So be brave.
We're being brave. We want you to be brave.
I'm saying a bunch of jokes about myself that I wouldn't normally just blast on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm being we're both saying so many vulnerable things.
So outside of my comfort
meet
zone.
us there. A little comment about something that's personal for you, so that you can be part of what we're doing.
Live wholeheartedly this week and show up, and please comment on Alia's post.
I'm so emotionally connected to my post.
We're so excited. This is just so cool. And we know that we can be cool people to kind of support everybody and that's going through stuff, because we're just going through it with you.
I got pooped on earlier. Did I mention
more.
that? I had to go get Nova just now.
Oh, she had proverbially
she literally pooped on me. Well, I picked her up and she had like an explosive diaper and it got all over me. And that's why I was gone. That's why my shirt is gone, because
I was like, I realized take that long to put Cheerios on the table. Why
poop all over me? And I couldn't figure out why I smelled weird, and it was poop. That's real.
You don't smell weird anymore.
I took it up my shirt.
I'm really glad that it didn't go through the other shirt.
Yeah, I have an undershirt, by the way. I'm not topless. It's not that kind of podcast.
I don't know what kind of podcast people are shirtless on, but I don't even listen.
Ones that people comment on. I don't know. Anyways.
Somebody's bitter.
This is part of my weird mood today.
Come as you are.
I get really unfiltered.
No, for real. This is
just
really
unfiltered.
We're just trying to figure it out. We got stuff.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned always for our next episode. And, share our post. Because we want people who aren't necessarily our friends to also hear this.
We're seeing that you're viewing them, and I'm sure on YouTube we can tell there's views. Not that we're being creepy about it, but we're excited when 10 more show up and we're like, oh my gosh, people are listening. So we know that if you relate, there's other people who will relate. So just share it, and we're excited for next week's episode to happen. Thank you.
Have a great day, you guys.